Doctor Who's Season 1 has just come to an end. As always, I've got a lot of thoughts on it, and perhaps controversial. The discussion around the series has been really interesting, and I just wanted to throw my hat into the ring with it, because it's definitely brought up a lot of issues I've had with Doctor Who for a while, but at the same time, it has restored my faith in it in a way. But at the same time, there are many problems with it that are present as ever, but we're going to be getting into it. Let me just say before we begin that henceforth in this review I'm going to be referring to it as Series 14 because, well, I'll mention this later, but the reboot does not make any sense, especially considering how the season is structured and written. It's such a stupid idea to call it Season 1, and considering that the main villain of the season is a fucking villain from the 1970s that most average fans won't have heard of or know of, except for the die-hard fans, it's pretty stupid. If you're just starting a show and it's called Season 1, you'd think it would be, built so that new viewers would understand what was going on, and for the most part it is in some ways, but at the same time it's not, is it? So why'd you call it Season 1? Anyway, sorry, this is a stupid rant. Just want to lay down a few ground rules before we begin. I'm going to be going through the series episode by episode and reviewing each individual story. I'll then give my rating on the episode, talk about if it's good or bad or whatever. Then I'm going to rank each of the stories, tell you which one is the best, which one's the worst, which one didn't quite land. I'm going to give my overall rating of the season, tell you if I think it was a successful season or not for Doctor Who. Part 1. Space Babies. Whatever. I literally have got, nothing new to say here. I will say, though, that I enjoyed this one a lot more than I expected. It plays very much like The Beast Below or Rouge, and it's very introductory. Then they said this was going to be called Season 1. I understand why, because of an episode like this. It's very new viewer friendly. It's very, establishing the basics. The scene where, Sonic's her phone so that it, so she can call her mum. It's the exact same scene that was in 2005. So in that way, it works. But as someone who's been watching Doctor Who since he was 6 years old, this isn't really new shit to me, and I've seen this dozens of times, so it just feels like we're going through the motions a bit here. But I do appreciate that, especially since you're called Season 1. It definitely feels like they made more of an effort in these early few episodes to make it more appealing to the new audience. But that's mainly because of the Disney deal, but we're going to get into that later, don't you worry. Other than that, it's very, 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 very campy RTD. It's all of his worst traits as a writer embodied into one episode. I had zero expectations going in. I wasn't that hyped for it, but at the same time, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. It wasn't deep, there wasn't nothing here, it's literally just a bit of fluff. It's just mindless entertainment, a passing fancy, it's nothing interesting. So if you want to start, if this is your first Doctor Who season, then it's probably okay for that, but at the same time it's not particularly strong as an episode. But it does introduce most of the core elements that have been essential to the revival since 2005. The Pokemon's alright, I suppose. It's pretty interesting. The Space Baby talking mouse, though, what the fuck? I feel like I'm watching Beverly Hills Chit Wow. What the fuck is this shit? But other than that, it's fine. I don't know how I can say it's okay more than once, but it is. It's whatever, 5 out of 10. Let's move on. The second episode of Season 1 is The Devil's Chord, and I've never been more conflicted on an episode since perhaps, fucking Hellbent. It's very... It's one of those weird episodes where it's got some really amazing moments. There are individual scenes in this that are some of the best moments of Doctor Who ever. The scene with the piano on the roof is absolutely amazing. I was genuinely awestruck while watching it. I found it very lackluster in many ways. It felt like the episode had these big important moments like the one I just mentioned. That it was constructed of these, and then in between it connecting was just meaningless scenes. The scene where the Doctor removes all sound is really cool, but at the same time, it doesn't mean anything in the end, and eventually it doesn't really come together to mean much, like I said. So what is the point of this? It's just a cool little scene. As for the villain, alright, a bit campy, not amazing. I feel like her being the Toymaker's granddaughter is a really cool idea, but they didn't do anything with it. it's briefly mentioned. Like, I feel this should be a bigger deal, and if the toy maker had been a bigger, more imposing threat than he was in the Giggle, but made a whole fucking video on that, then maybe it would be more impactful. But I do like the whole gimmick of music. Like I said, Maestro is a pretty cool character, alright idea, and yeah, I feel like I definitely want to rewatch this one because my best way to describe the Devil's Chord is I hate it, but I love it at the same time. It hits so many highs, like the scenes I just mentioned, but the lows, some of the cringy performances are very low, but at the same time it has the amazing, always a twist at the end scene, which was brilliant. However, I feel the Beatles aspect of this, which was like the main thing I saw when I saw this in the show, was, oh my god, it's the Beatles, I've been waiting for this for years, was not really done well, although the whole Beatles no music gimmick was pretty cool and it was a nice way to get around the licensing. At the same time, they could have focused on that element a little bit more, and it would have been better if they had the license, because they would have, utilised that much better. But either way, it's not too bad, and it's definitely a better introductory episode than fucking Space Babies. So I'm going to give The Devil's Chord a 5.5 out of 10. Boom! Headphone warning there, sorry. Yeah, this was my most hyped episode of the entire season, because it's the GOAT Stephen Moffat, my favourite Doctor Who writer of all time, has finally returned. This is the guy that made my favourite era of the show, wrote my favourite Doctor, and in the RTD era, he was the GOAT of guest writers, like Blink, I'm not joking. The concepts he has are amazing, and I have to say that Boom definitely lived up to my expectations. What an amazing idea! Like the way he writes the Doctor is just. I'm sorry, I love Russell's Doctors, but the dialogue he gives the Doctor, no matter if it's a good episode or he's writing a Heaven Sent or he's writing a fucking Woman Who Lived, good or bad, he always gives the Doctor an amazing dialogue. Like, it doesn't always land, but it's always impeccably charming, witty, and well written. And the difference between the words coming out of the Doctor's mouth in this compared to the previous episode are just incomparable. However, where Moffat's weakness as a writer lie is how he writes guest characters. I saw a really good post on Twitter. It said, Russell is really good at writing people the Doctor interacts with, and Moffat is really good at writing the Doctor. And I absolutely agree with that. And you know what really blows my mind? We've never had an RTD and Stephen Moffat pen script. Like, they've never been co-writers, which is kind of crazy, because I think they'd work perfectly together. A really cool idea, and it really... I love when Moffat takes a simple foundation core of the show, like an idea that's stuck with the show forever, and he just flips it on his head and said, what if it was like this? And taking, like, what does the Doctor do? Like, what does he do when he can't do anything else? He runs. Like, they say it all the time, running down corridors. What do you do when the Doctor can't run away from the threat? It's a really cool idea. I will say, though, this is one of the only episodes I've rewatched for this, and it wasn't quite as good on my rewatch. It was still amazing, but like some of the magic was gone a little bit. But overall, amazing. Interesting that Verada See-Through showed up. I don't think this is going to be her character that she's playing in season 2. That won't make much sense. But it's an interesting idea. I like how when he references himself in his own writing, like the whole villain guard thing, that dates back to 2005 again. And it was in Twice Upon a Time as well. So yeah, I like those little things that he does with this. Although I will say that, about the finale as well, the fact that this machine just knew Ruby was, and they just could have looked to seen who her mother was, because it knew who the fuck she was when it attached its fucking wires to her, so why can't you just look on there if you need to know so badly? But fuck, I'm getting sidetracked. Other than that, this is definitely the best episode of Doctor Who since 2017, maybe. And I just want to say, as a whole, this season is infinitely better than anything Chibs wrote. Sorry, Chibs. But, oh god, yeah, very happy with it. Boom is a great episode. 8.5 out of 10. Let's move on. 73 yards. I knew nothing about this episode, and it's the only episode I watched on broadcast, which is quite interesting. Speaking of which, the whole broadcasting schedule is shit, and they should really go back to the old one, but that's... However, when I sat down to watch this episode, I've got to say that this is by far and away the best episode of Season 1. Absolutely speechless. I love Turn Left. I'm a massive Turn Left fan. I think RTD writes dystopia so well. And I will say this is not quite as good as Turn Left, but I don't really care, because to top Turn Left would have to be the greatest thing ever created, because Turn Left is one of the best episodes of television ever made. I just love everything about this. I love the eeriness of it. Having like another Doctor Light episode, like, I don't know why the Doctor Light episodes tend to be the best episodes of the show, but this is just so amazing. It works so well. The mystery slowly developing. I will say though, one of my only criticisms with this episode is the fact that on broadcast I was a little confused, but I've watched explanations, and after rewatch it, really, it made a lot more sense to me. But the whole thing of Ruby aging and redeeming herself is just so brilliant. Like, this is the kind of shit I want Doctor Who to do. After 5 fucking years of Chibs playing it safe, not really, they on paper giving us new, fresh ideas, but they're so stale, bland, and overdone. This is the kind of shit I want Doctor Who to be doing weekly. It's so fresh, it's so imaginative. And while I disagree with RTD, he says it's his best script of all time. This is not his best script of all time. I think there's a few I'd say are better. This is easily the best episode since 2017. I know I said that in the last episode, but I mean it. It was at this point in the season where I thought, holy shit, we're getting going now. I'm serious. Episode 3 and 4 of this season is one of the best little runs of Doctor Who ever. Like, it's brilliant. Ncuti was barely in it, but when he was in it, brilliant. Some of Russell's best dialogue, I think. The whole thing with everyone turning on Ruby, it's just so brilliant. I know I'm spoiling most things in this review, but I'm not going to spoil too much about this one because it's one I really want you guys to just watch for yourself. Absolutely brilliant. If you watch one episode from this season, it needs to be this one. Watch this episode, I implore you. Even if you're not a big fan of Doctor Who, just watch it. This and Boom, they make a great pairing. Boom is very focused on the Doctor. This is very focused on the companion. They're a perfect duet. 9 out of 10. Best episode of the season. Give me more, please. Dot and Bubble. After 73 yards, I didn't really have much expectations for the rest of the season. Like, I was just on such a high with it, I didn't really care what the next episode was. And I have to say that Dot and Bubble, it's alright. Yeah, it's decent. I feel a lot of it is very runaroundy. Lindy Pepperbean pissed me off, but I will say the twist at the end caught me so off guard. Like, spoiler alert, but she just lets that thing kill Ricky September. It genuinely caught me off guard, and she goes from being an annoying side character that I just didn't make me angry, I just didn't really care about her, to being one of the most evil, despicable villains in the entire show. It's actually brilliant, that. But most of the episode is just a runaround. It's just them on her stupid bubble thing guiding her. I thought there was going to be more like critique about how kids these days are always on their fucking phones, but I was quite surprised that it wasn't really about that. It was just her running about trying to avoid these fucking slug things. The whole thing of the homeworld being destroyed, it didn't really come up, was never mentioned. I don't know what the point of that was. I thought that was going to be something to do with the critique, but no critique there. Didn't mean anything in the end, did it? I will say, again, with 73 yards, a bit like that, when I watched the ending and he screams, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I was so confused. Now I know why. It doesn't really make much sense. I understand why they did it, obviously, but it doesn't make that much sense. However, Ncuti's performance there is absolutely amazing, even though I don't think the twist really works. But obviously the Ricky September twist is amazing and blew my mind. And considering that was the first thing he ever shot, it's absolutely incredible. Like, he just had the Doctor down to a T on the first thing he ever filmed, so that's pretty impressive. So yeah, I think I want to rewatch this one because I might get a bit more out of it knowing the twist at the end. There's always a twist, there's always a twist, there's always a twist at the end. But yeah, it's decent. It's better than the first two episodes for sure, so I'm going to give Dot and Bubble a 6 out of 10. Rogue. Rogue was the worst episode of the season at the time I watched it, but little did I know there was much worse shit to come. Little did I know. But yep, I saw a lot of positive reaction to this one. I saw people like saying, oh, it's the best episode of season 1 so far. And I think, no, it really isn't. This definitely one of the weakest episodes. If we didn't count the finale, and this would be the weakest episode of the entire show, it's just... Yeah, I'm going to get into it. Rogue as a character is just nothing. Not charming, not funny, no charisma. Just some bland, handsome American guy that I don't really know why the Doctor fought for the guy, because he's not really that interesting. Ncuti's so charismatic. The guy don't really match his charisma, but whatever. Rogue, no opinion. The Schalke Doctor thing, Doctor fans get their knickers in a twist about a bunch of stupid shit. Do I care that some random animated Doctor from a thing no one watches in it? No, I couldn't really care less. Ruby just saying, oh my Bridgerton, say Bridgerton. Most entertaining part of the story. The Chodas, just whatever, not interesting. That actress, by the way, that plays the Chief Choda, Chief Choda, what the fuck, was in Torchwood. She's a very good actor. I don't know her name. Check her out. She was in Game of Thrones as well. Very recommend her. And yeah, it was a decent run around, but the fact that the main reason why I'm not such a big fan of it is because everyone's losing their shit over what is just a generic standard Doctor run around. Like, I got Girls in the Fireplace flashbacks for a minute because of the setting, but Girls in the Fireplace. Bloody hell, it's not an orgy. Girl in the Fireplace is a much better written episode than this, which is also written by Stephen Moffat. I'm noticing a little trend coming along here. But other than that, it was a fine episode, and considering that the last 4 episodes have been very experimental, it was kinda nice to have a regular episode again. But it just didn't really hit for me. The love story wasn't there for me because one of them's bland and uninteresting, and I don't understand why the Doctor would be so down bad for some random guy that's not even that, like I said, charismatic. So it didn't the emotional parts didn't hit for me because I wasn't invested in it. I might rewatch it, but it would only be if I was bored and had nothing better to do with my time. So Rogue, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Let's just move on to the fucking finale. Oh god. The Legend of Ruby Sunday. When I first watched it, I was very positive about it. I saw a lot of people saying that it was 10 out of 10 best episode ever, which, no, it wasn't. But it's the first part of a 2-parter, so I thought, this is decent, I like where this is going, but I'm going to have to wait to see how part 2 turns out before I fully judge it. And I gotta say, after watching part 2, this episode has definitely fallen a lot in my estimation. This episode is not very good as a first half because it's just set up. And it would be fine if the second half was actually good and delivered on the setup, but it fucking doesn't. So, Legend of Ruby Sunday is just promising great things and not giving anything. So, Sutek's back, which was very cool because, Sutek, woo. The redesign, I'm not that keen on. I don't like the fact he's some big dumb CGI motherfucker now. I like the design of the face, like the jackal demon thing. I just wish it was on a humanoid body. Give me that design behind the iconic mask, and it'll be 10 out of 10 best Sutek design ever. But they didn't. Don't really bother me though. As an episode, I like the detective elements with the time window and all that. It was very cool at the time, but like I said, after watching Empire of Death, it is just meaningless because none of it pays off and none of it really matters. So, knowing how it turns out, you can't really enjoy it that much, and it does not hold up on repeat viewings, which is why I'm probably never going to rewatch it. If I ever fucking rewatch Empire of Death, I don't know. I won't be able to help myself. Random side note here, but that fucking annoying kid Morris. I mean, no hit on the actor or anything, just fucking pisses me off, little smart ass. I wish someone would fucking sit on him. Wait, fuck, not like that, shit. Like I said, it hit hard at the time, but it's just meaningless now, isn't it? However, there is some enjoyment there, so I have to factor that in. Oh, god, I'm gonna give it, a 5 or a 6. I'm not really sure, because it's just set up, innit? It's not really much there, no substance really. None of it. Fuck, I'm getting more angry even recording this. Now, I've seen many people saying this is the worst finale in Doctor Who history, and I'm like, no it's not, because the Timeless Children and the Vanquishers exist, so it's not, is it? It's definitely better than all of Chibnall's finales. Sorry that I'm just bashing on poor old Chibs here, but what the fuck do you want me to do? It's definitely had more entertainment than those, and I will say, just before we get into this, I know I've been hyping up how bad this is the whole review, but there are things about this episode that I do like. I like the fact that Ruby's mum is a nobody. I don't want to tie this into Star Wars, but it's like Rey. I don't want to talk about Last Jedi, but I think I have to. The fact that she was a nobody in the movie was really interesting and worked. I'm sorry, Last Jedi haters, but it's true. And then they fucking ruined it and made her a Palpatine. And I'm actually kind of happy that her mum wasn't some fucking Susan or Rassilon's daughter or whatever. And I'd be fine with the fact she's a nobody, and the scene where they reunite is really beautiful, out of context, and also the fact that for the past 9 episodes we've been told that her mum's some enigmatic mystery, and her mum's the reason, mind you, that Sutek couldn't wipe out the whole universe. And when it turns out her mum's a nobody, that doesn't make a single shred of sense. Why couldn't Sutek know this? If it's on record in Boom, oh fuck, I'm getting pissed off just thinking about it. Also, 73 Yards, right? A crucial part of the finale hinges on a deleted scene from 73 Yards. If you'd shown us that scene in 73 Yards, it would make a little bit more sense. It just... Oh my god, it pissed me off so much. Anyway, that would be... Her mum being a nobody would be fine if you hadn't been making it some big fucking mystery. Thanks a lot, RTD. But the defeat of Sutek, telling me this is the greatest enemy you've ever faced, the god of death himself, you tie a stupid, silly little leash to him, drag him through the time vortex, and for some reason, you doing this and him hitting the sides of the stormy time tunnel, That just resurrects the whole universe. Also, side note, I am sick and tired of every single series finale Doctor Who decides that they're just going to kill off the entire universe. Like, we see Kate Stewart, the whole unit could just disintegrate before our eyes, and it's meaningless because they're brought back in 30 minutes. They did this. They've been doing this since 2007. It didn't work then. Check out my every Doctor Who episode rank, because I fucking hate the last Time Lords. Didn't work then, and they've been doing it for pretty much every single finale now. There are some finales that are the exception, and those tend to be the best ones. The ones where they aren't killing the entire universe just to revive it in 45 minutes. Those are the finales you should be learning from. They should only be doing shit like this on rare occasions, every single 3 seasons, or as the Doctor's swan song. They should do it for those, but not for this. One of the best finales ever, The Doctor Falls, is just about saving a little group of children. And it's better than any of these. It's better than this for sure. If, like, on paper this is awesome if you commit to it. If I could make one big change from this season, just one little selfish change, I would have it that they don't defeat Sutekh at the end of this episode. I would have all of Season 2, or Series 15, be set in a post-apocalyptic world where the Doctor has to defeat Sutekh for 8 episodes. Then you can tell me he's the greatest enemy you've ever faced. Then it would be impactful. And I don't want them doing that every season, obviously, because that would be stupid. But just this once, to show how impactful this is, you can do it. The fucking Flux, I don't like Flux, it's a shit season, but at least they committed to this idea of the world ending. A whole 6-hour story about it. That was good in concept. It didn't work because it was shit, but it was good in concept. And can I just say, the fact that the previous season was about the half the universe dying, and then immediately next season, half the universe dies. Sorry, the whole universe dies. This has been a problem for nearly 20 years, and I'm sick of it. It's not just RTD, by the way. I think I've been bashing on the guy too much. Moffat's guilty of this as well. Like, fucking Wedding of River Song. It's shit, and he did it as well. So, I think Doctor Who really needs to change. And I think this has just exposed so many of the systematic flaws that have been sitting there for years. Hell, you know what? Even The Timeless Children, which is the worst episode of Doctor Who ever, in more than 60 years, it's the worst episode. At least it wasn't about the universe ending. At least it wasn't about the whole universe being destroyed for the 15th time again. The memory TARDIS, by the way, side note, that's now my new favourite set in all of Doctor Who. I love that set. Oh yeah, speaking of sets and stuff, the new TARDIS, did I mention this in my 63? I don't think I did, but I really like it. It's nice classic vibes to it. I like the cobbled together nature of the console. It's massive, but I wish they'd, use the space a bit more. But yeah, I'm actually quite happy with it. But as for Ncuti Gatwa's dodgy fire stick sonic screwdriver, ugh, God. Listen, I don't want the Doctor using a Skyglass TV remote. Just give me a normal Sonic. Like, there's been so many cool concepts I've seen for a Ncuti Sonic. Like, I mean, there's just so many cool ideas. Hell, you know what? Give him the 14th Doctor Sonic. That design is absolutely awesome, and it was only around for like 5 minutes. What was the point in giving us such a cool design if you're just going to get rid of it and replace it with a fucking TV remote? And I like the design of Ncuti Sonic if it wasn't a sonic screwdriver. It doesn't even look like a screwdriver. If it was just some random throwaway bit of tech that the stuff he uses in Blink, then fine. But it isn't. And it just looks so clunky and like, oh, it's not cool at all. It's not cool at all. Anyway, enough of that. Mel, one of the most boring companions of all time, is here, and she's kind of interesting, I guess. She's more interesting than she was in Classic Doctor 2. But yeah, her becoming an agent of Sutekh means nothing. It's all reversed. And him saying goodbye to Ruby at the end, meaningless. She'll be back in, what, like 6 months? She's going to be back anyway. What's the point in that scene? Like, if she was leaving, cool, but she's not. And then for 2025, she's going to be back in that season as well. So, what's the point? They do it every single season. That's my point. Doctor Who has had these problems for ages. It's not like this season is the first one to have these problems. They've been there for ages. I think a lot of people that hate it on this have really missed the fact. These problems have been there for years. And by the way, shout out to Verdana, an amazing YouTuber, made a great video about this, way more better than I could ever make. Check it out, I'll link it in the description. Sutekh being on the TARDIS since 1977 is so ridiculous. The memes, though, are hilarious. Like, so many funny memes about it. Just watching, they're really funny. That's the only good thing to come out of this. I hate the idea that Sutekh has been there for so long. If I could change one thing about this, I could make it that in Wild Blue Yonder, that's when Sutekh latched on, because it's been kind of hinted in the giggle that him drawing that line of salt at the edge of the universe has let all these supernatural forces in. Kate says it in 73 yards that the supernatural's increasing. Say that let Maestro in, the Toy Maker, and Sutekh in. That would be brilliant. That's why I'd change that, definitely. And yeah, it all just on the surface, like that whole thing in the desert, like that's cool. Give me a whole season of that. Commit to that for once. Just commit to that idea of this being big for once. Please, I beg you. But yeah, now it's all and done. I've still found the episode entertaining, just incredibly infuriating. I'm sorry that I've been waffling for so long about this, but I made like a massive thread on my Twitter, which you can follow me on there, Panini Prod, at Panini Prod. You can follow me on there if you want to see more of my random thoughts about, Doctor Who and Marvel and DC and basically anything I want. I'm just so conflicted with this. Like, elements of it that I like, but they don't mean anything. Ruby's mother, like, oh god, on paper fine, but in context of it being so important means nothing. Also, how can Ruby can make it snow then, huh? How can Ruby make it snow if she's a nobody? What's going on there, huh? She's got to be someone important if she has that big of an impact on the story of the show. But overall, considering everything, I'm gonna have to give Empire of Death a 4 out of 10 or 4.5. I honestly don't know. I'll give it a 4.5 then. 4.5 out of 10. Slap it on the screen. I want to touch on Shooty and Millie because they are absolutely fantastic here. After 3 seasons of Chibs not being able to write good dialogue between the companions and the Doctor, this is such a breath of fresh air. The dynamic between Shooty and Millie Gibson is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, Russell is really good at writing companions. That's probably his biggest strength as a writer. And I'm just so happy to see them here. I love them. Despite all the flaws I have with the episodes, I think there's nothing wrong with them. Like, although I will say Shooty's acting in Empire of Death was a bit cringeworthy, like that scream. I audibly laughed out loud at that. Oh, speaking of audibly laughing, the scene where Ruby's mum points to the sign and her naming her, that's so fucking stupid. Don't even get me started on that. God in heaven. But yeah, I have no complaints about them. Shooty is so charming, so charismatic. His costumes are great, although I kind of wish they just pick one and settle on it, because it's kind of like the branding is kind of important. Like, I like costume variation, I love that, but I think the Doctors need to have like a set style that they carry, and they vary it every now and again. So I really like Shooty's Church on Ruby Road costume. That's his best costume. Stick with that. Just give me different coat now and again, different shirt or something. That is an amazing costume. Please stick with that. Just realised now that I didn't review Church on Ruby Road when it came out, but I liked it. I love the way it introduced Shooty and Millie, but as an episode it was fine. Wasn't the best, but I love the way it introduced them. 6 out of 10 for that, although I won't be counting that as part of the series. So, to conclude this long, rambly review, and if you stuck around this long, then thank you very much. I really appreciate it. What do I think of Doctor Who Series 14? Well, it's not the best, but I take it over anything we've had in 7 years, so it's got that going for it. The overall story arc is terrible because it didn't conclude very well, but the individual quality of some of these episodes, like even the lowest episodes, like even Rogue or Space Babies, are mostly better than anything we've had. Like, I can't stress this enough, this is so much better than anything we've had recently, so I have to commend it for that. But the overall, how it works as a whole, it does not work, I think. But can I forgive it because it has some great performances and some individual stories are great? I guess so. I suppose I can. But, oh, yeah. Conflicted, very conflicted. I feel I'm just a broken record here. But I really recommend you watch this because it is better than anything we've had in recent years, and I fucking need to stop saying that. So, I'm going to rank all of the episodes now. You can make it dramatic if you want, like drum roll or whatever. Number 8, Empire of Death. No surprise to anyone because it's made me ramble for like 10 minutes, but this is easily the worst episode of the season. Fine to watch, but the second you start to think about it, it breaks your fucking brain. Number 7, Rogue. Really overrated episode if you ask me. I didn't enjoy it that much. I think Rogue's boring, no charisma, Shooty's great, fine run around, whatever. Number 6, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Fine as an episode, actually pretty decent on first watch before I saw Empire of Death, but now I've seen Empire of Death, it's completely and utterly meaningless. It means nothing, boring setup for nothing, good's gonna come of it, whatever, it's bleh, don't care. Number 5, Space Babies. Still surprised at how much fun I had with it, but it is very generic and kind of embarrassing considering that fact that an adolescent boy, a teenager, is watching this and reviewing it. I feel that they need to get their audience, like, who the fuck was this made for? There's no one this young watching Doctor Who. Most of the people watching it are 40-year-old men with no life. Please just get that in your head. but it's fine. It's not too bad. I could take it or leave it. Number 4, Dot and Bubble. A great twist at the end, but it's pretty meaningless run around. However, I had a lot more fun with it, and I'd take it over any of the episodes below it. Well, kind of goes without saying. It's decent. So yeah, it's good. Fine. Number 3 is The Devil's Chord. Despite the fact that I gave Dot and Bubble a higher rating, I still kind of prefer this because I find it to be a bit more ambitious. And like I said, some of those scenes are just, chef's kiss. However, it's still very flawed and very conflicting. And there's a massive gap in quality between this and my top 2 spots. Number 2, Boom. Stephen Moffat's triumphant return, and it's brilliant. Not as good on a repeat viewing as I said, however it still really holds up, and I was just so happy when I finished watching it. I cannot express that enough. The king is back, the goat has returned. Just brilliant writing of the Doctor here as well, and it would be number 1 if it wasn't for a little episode I'm about to talk about. Number 1, 73 yards. Should be no surprise, I've been glazing this episode so hard throughout this whole review. I absolutely love this episode. I think it's brilliant. I wish Doctor Who would make more shit like this. It restored my faith in Russell T Davies as a writer. I think this whole RTD2 run has been kind of mixed so far. This is the best thing to come out of it. Don't listen to anyone that tells you any different. I would take this episode over all of the rest of this series, over any of the 60th specials. I'd erase them from existence if it meant I could have 73 yards. Like I said, it's not his best script, like he says it is. I think he's written better in his first era. However, if this is a sign of what's to come, RTD, give me more shit like this. Not necessarily like this, but shit this good. This creative, this interesting, this eerie, this creepy. This is everything. If you're going to watch one episode, if you're only going to watch one, like nothing else, watch 73 Yards. It is amazing. And with that, that's my ranking of Doctor Who Series 1 episodes. Here's the list on screen. Little Sam will put it on screen for you. Thank you very much for watching. And I think that's all I've got to say for now. Yeah, thanks for watching. Stay cool. Bye. There's always a twist. There's always a twist. There's always a twist.